Welcome to Buddha's Center. My name is Jeff Allen, and today we're looking at Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, specifically ending the section on misconceptions about meditation and then getting into the actual body of the practice and the reflections that we do, starting from the life of leisure and opportunity. So before we get started, let's get into a physical posture as we always do and set our intention to become Buddhas for the sake of all sentient beings, and then say that we're getting into a physical posture, the 7-point Vairocana posture, in order to make that goal be achieved quicker. So we put our legs into a cross-legged fashion, the best that we can do, preferably the Vajra posture. We put our hands in our lap with our right on our left, with our thumbs touching, in a comfortable position, back straight, vertebrae like a stack of coins, shoulders in a comfortable position, our heads tilted slightly forward with our eyes slightly open at a 45-degree angle, looking down kind of at our nose. Then we have our mouth in a comfortable position with our tongue on the top of the roof, touching the back of the teeth, allowing for the saliva to circulate, not fill our mouth and not become dry because we're breathing through our nose. And then after we get those 7 points established, we're establishing them so that we can have clarity within our meditation and eventually be able to do some of the more physical practices that will be required when we have to focus on some of the internal elements of the body and the higher practices and higher teachings, which will allow us to become Buddhas the quickest. But it will be necessary for us to learn all of the foundation practices and realize them for those very fast, quick practices to work. So this 7-point Vairocana posture is a foundation for us to later be able to do these very advanced practices with ease. So we get into this posture, these 7 points, and then we add an 8th point of the breathing. So we breathe in and out through our nose. Breathing all the way, as I say, to the top of the breath, but meaning breathing in as deep as you can without forcing it, but into your diaphragm. So as you're breathing in, you're filling your lungs, but then bringing the breath all the way into the diaphragm. And as you inhale, your stomach actually goes out. And as you exhale, your stomach goes in. So this is a way to really, really bring the air into its all of its places it can go. And then we'll be able to later on use that in our meditation. So let's begin breathing in and out through our nose, bringing it all the way in. As far as we can, but very naturally, not breathing in very quickly and forcefully, not doing it so slowly that we feel as though we're drowning. We're just breathing in the most stable fashion that we can, all the way in, and then all the way out. And we're counting as we exhale. 1, all the way in, all the way out. 2. Or wherever the counting feels most comfortable for you is fine. It's taught in many different ways. So let's start to try to get our minds into a more neutral place. Let's try to leave everything that we came here thinking about in the parking lot, as a good friend of mine says. And let's try to get our mind to that neutral place from where we can grow virtuous thoughts and virtuous practices, and we can grow them as quickly as possible, and always wanting to do so to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So let's begin focusing on the breath, and then we are going to add the visualization of Buddha Shakyamuni in order to increase our merit and also increase our ability to tell our minds what to do and to focus our minds. So let's begin by breathing in and out to get our minds to a point where we could then tell it to focus on Buddha Shakyamuni. So let's do that for a few rounds of breath, and then we'll add the image of Buddha Shakyamuni. If you are someone who has a very, very stable mind that doesn't have to go through these stages, then you can immediately bring the image of Buddha Shakyamuni to mind. So let's begin with that. Now begin to visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, or whatever meditational deity you usually use, 2 feet in front of you or so, eye height, about the size of your thumb, 2 inches or so. Light body, 3-dimensional, beautiful being, glowing, radiating light, not a normal body full of blood and intestines and bones, a body like a diamond that's so pure. Clothed in the beautiful robes as you would normally visualize. And as we're breathing in and out, now we put Buddha Shakyamuni's image into our mental consciousness. And we use that as our object of observation as we breathe in and breathe out. Be so happy that we can think for a moment and focus on such a great being, on such a reliable being. Think about why Buddha Shakyamuni is such a great being. Buddha Shakyamuni alone taught the Four Noble Truths. Think about what that meant for us. Think about what that means for us as we start to think about our own suffering. Think about the 8 types of suffering: birth, aging, sickness, and death, and how those relate to our lives. Think about meeting with the unpleasant and how that relates to our life. Think about the times we've been separated from things that were pleasant and what that means for our life. How painful that was and how that felt when we don't get what we want, that depression and anxiety, that feeling, that suffering. Having to be in a form we're forced into, it's a basis for all of these sufferings. The mental consciousness, all of these afflictions cause us to suffer. Knowing there's no certainty in our relationships, knowing that when we die, we go on, and those that are closest to us, we may not know again until we are Buddhas. No matter what we get in this life, we're not satisfied. We keep trying. We're reborn again and again. Shuck off these bodies over and over again. Go to the high realms and then to the low realms over and over again. We're here now. We feel so stable and confident. But in the next moment, something could happen. We pass on. And now those things we read about, we think are so unreal, become our reality. And then we're in high positions where we feel like suffering could never exist again, only to be thrust back into a position we never thought was possible. And when we're going through all of this process from life to life in the bardo, we're there alone. When we die, all of these people that we consider so close to us now, when we're born, we'll look at someone else as our new friends. and forget them. Which is very painful when you think about this. You think about our loved ones. And then we understand what the suffering of change, and pervasive compounded suffering is, and how it relates to our own individual circumstances, how it related before, and how it will relate. The Buddha is the most reliable guide because he showed us what causes that mess. The Buddha with certainty said that we have to have all of this suffering because we have ignorance. The Buddha stated that from the ignorance that grasps at the I as being truly established, we have inappropriate thinking, and then the afflictions arise: attachment, hatred, ignorance. And then we have contaminated actions. And then we have suffering. And the Buddha was very certain that this is what caused the first truth. All of that suffering presented in the truth of suffering could be explained in the truth of origin. And Buddha showed us how we are bound to cyclic existence with that relationship. And then the Buddha stated that this all can end. The Buddha stated that all of this is unnecessary because your mind isn't static in a way that makes it so it can't go away. All of these things are impermanent, so therefore they are results. Results depend upon their causes. If there is no cause, there can be no result. So the Buddha stated that our suffering could cease by getting rid of what causes it. And what causes it is a result. So therefore, it can be abandoned. And what it causes is a result. So therefore, it can be abandoned. So the Buddha stated that by relying on a path realized by superior beings who had seen emptiness, who had understood what the antidote for our ignorance was, we could too be free from suffering forever, be free from all of our fears, because the afflictive obstructions that give rise to the truth of suffering would no longer be there. So we feel happy. We have the ability to engage in the path. We have this human basis that has the ability to study and hear, and we are free from a lot of circumstances where we couldn't do that. So we should have a sense of relief about our current position, because we have a pure solution, a pure antidote that's been presented to us. And in this case, us alone. So then we have this sense of wonder and amazement that we could be free from suffering forever. And then we look around at our loved ones and we start to think about all of those uncertainties and insatiabilities and rebirth and shucking off bodies and having to descend the high to the low and having, no one to go with them, that we can't go with them. They may die before us or we die before them. These people we're so close to. And then they're forced, through this Bardo intermediate state process into another set of aggregates, as we just learned about in the various sufferings we talked about. And then they're there alone and just as scared and to be born into whatever world they are, as we meditated on the suffering of our birth and experiences and so forth. So we start to apply all of the things that we thought about ourself and the truth of suffering to starting with our friends, then moving over to our neutrals, or those people who are strangers to us, and then over to our enemies, and then all other beings. And we really try to right size our relationship with all sentient beings, and looking at wanting to have an equal desire to help them all, with no bias towards any of them. And when we start to do the meditations we find in the mind training and in the Lam Rim teachings and so forth, we'll find very clearly that it's not reasonable to state that someone's our enemy, because they're merely under control of karma and afflictions at this very moment. Our perception of them is under the control of our karma and afflictions at the moment that we're interacting with them, and we're then labeling them as an enemy for one reason or another. And previously, they were as kind to us as the kindest person in our life. We've just forgotten it. So if somebody was taken over by a spirit, we would just try to help them, and we would want them, even if they were trying to attack us, we'd do everything we could to, get them help or get them a doctor. And we wouldn't take it personally. And likewise, we see that when we have experiences that we don't like, and then we label someone as an enemy, it's just an inappropriate label that the childish would label, because we're misapprehending reality and we're not taking responsibility. So we start to right size that relationship, and we see that all sentient beings are in this state of suffering that they don't want to have, and they would just wish to have bliss if they could have it. Then we start to think, oh, how nice it would be if all of these beings could have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they have happiness and the causes of happiness. I'll take it upon myself to do that. May the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas bless me to be able to do just that, bring them to a state of happiness. Then we start to think, may all sentient beings, how nice it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. I'll take it upon myself to make sure that they're free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May the Buddhas, Gurus, and Bodhisattvas please bless me to be able to do this. And then we think, okay, I feel so strong, I feel so powerful, I'm going to take it upon myself, the task of bringing all sentient beings to a state of happiness that's free from suffering. I'm going to do this. I have some knowledge, I have some abilities, I have some capabilities, I'm skillful. And then when I immediately do a self-assessment, I see that I'm not capable. And then I start to look around at all beings in the universe and find that only one being is capable of bringing all beings to a state of happiness that's free from suffering. And I find that I land on Lord Buddha because I've studied who Buddha is. I've studied the excellent qualities of the body, speech, and mind and enlightened activities of the Buddha. And I understand that the Buddha is the most reliable guide, because of he or she has abandoned all the afflictive obstructions and obstructions to omniscience, and only a being called Buddha has done both of those things. So a Buddha has omniscient mind, so knows just how to help all sentient beings. The Buddha has caring for others, love and compassionate, the greatest amount that any being could ever have. The greatest amount of love and compassion in the universe is what the Buddha possesses. So the Buddha is motivated to use that omniscience. And then the Buddha has the power, because of being so pure, to be able to emanate and to be able to be so skillful, to help each and every sentient being to be quickly brought to a state that everybody wants, a freedom from suffering with the most amount of happiness possible. Only the Buddha can do that. Only the Buddha has this bliss. So only the Buddha can offer this bliss, right? It would only make sense. So lucky that we have this opportunity. And then we say, may we become Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. May I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. I must become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. And we know that in order to become a Buddha, for the sake of all sentient beings, it's necessary for us to engage in various practices. It's necessary for us to get the hearing arisen from, the wisdom arisen from hearing, analysis, and meditation. And all of these things come from various factors. They don't come from nowhere. They come through dependent origination. So it's for the purpose of the origination of the various realizations that'll be necessary for me to become a Buddha that I'm here at this teaching. We should really keep this in mind. May I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. May I recite the Heart Sutra to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. May I think of the implicit and explicit meanings within the Heart Sutra for the sake of all sentient beings. May it be very clear that the Heart Sutra speaks of the path of accumulation and what that means, the path of preparation and what that means, the path of seeing and what that means, the path of meditation and what that means, and the path of no more learning and what that means, and how the Prajnaparamita states that all of those 5 paths are empty of true existence because they dependently originate, and what that means. Emptiness is dependent origination. Dependent origination is the middle way. Therefore, emptiness is the middle way. What does that mean? So we think that over and over and over again for the purpose of becoming a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Then we engage in the rest of the prayers for the same purpose. And as we are motivated to become a Buddha, we do this visualization. So imagine that all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and teachers, all of the holy beings, are in the space in front of us. Imagine everyone that you possibly can imagine, and imagine that they're all so happy, full of joy. Imagine that Khenso Geshe Wandak is right there, smiling. Everyone remembers his smile. Imagine him just so happy, seeing us all here, seeing us all assembled, engaging in the only thing he cared for us to do, and that was practices that would lead to our happiness and freedom from suffering. So imagine that Khenso Geshe Wandak, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the other holy beings that you can imagine are in the space there. Imagine the profound view lineage, the extensive deeds lineage. Imagine those masters. In Buddha Shakyamuni, and you're imagining Maitreya and Manjushri and Asanga and Nagarjuna and all of the masters of the lineage, and Atisha and Lama Tsongkhapa, and leave none out. Any ones that you can imagine, just imagine they're all in the space in front of us, all so happy. And then imagine that all around us are sentient beings that we've led here by the hand. All sentient beings, all beings in the hell, hungry ghost, animal, human realm, all the demigods and gods. Imagine that all of those beings who aren't free and who aren't Buddhas are all led here by us to hear the teachings on the Mahayana. Imagine that we've brought them all here. And then now all the lamas, the teachers, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all become even happier, and they are filled with bliss because they see now all sentient beings are here. Their goal is to free all sentient beings from suffering and bring them to a state of happiness. And now they see all sentient beings are assembled here, and they're doing what they need to do in order to achieve those goals. So imagine now from all these gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, and from the bliss that they're experiencing as a result of the rejoicing that they're doing and seeing that we're here, seeing that we're all here engaging in practice. We're listening to the Heart Sutra, we're reciting the Heart Sutra, we're listening to a teaching, we're thinking about the teaching. They're just so ecstatic that this is happening. We imagine that ourselves and all sentient beings have a white om at our crown, a red ah at our throat, and a blue hum at our heart area, representing our body, speech, and mind. White Om, body; red Ah, speech; blue Hum, mind. And we imagine that we and all sentient beings that we've brought here to hear this Mahayana teaching have this identical pattern of Om Ah Hum. Then we imagine that all of the gurus and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas from those places on their bodies, from their crowns, throat, and hearts, because of the bliss that they're experiencing by seeing that all sentient beings are finally all assembled together as one without any divisions. And they're here all in order to participate in the Dharma and practice. And they see them all so happy that they're emanating white ohms and that are coming in the form of light rays and nectar. So light rays and nectar that are white turning into white ohms that are dissolving into ours and all sentient beings' crown and purifying ours and all sentient beings' body. We see red light rays and nectars descending that are turning in to Oz, that are dissolving into our throats and all sentient beings' throats and purifying all of our speech. And then we imagine that from this bliss, blue light rays nectars are showering down on us. Sometimes they talk about a blizzard, think about that kind of day. Think about these us and all sentient beings being showered with these light rays and nectars that are blue, that turn into hums and into our heart and purify our minds. So if we can hold this visualization while we are reciting the prayers, we'll have some added benefit. And then it will also later, when we do visualizations such as this in some of the tantric stages, it will give us some basis for some of these visualizations and so forth. So it's a win-win situation. So let's visualize all of the gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas in the space in front of us. Their bliss is making this nectar and light ray emanate Om Ah Hum in the color of white, red, blue, in that order, and it's just dissolving into us and all sentient beings and purifying our body, speech, and mind. And with that in mind, we hold that visualization, and let's begin to recite the Heart Sutra, and we will add the little rhythm so we can think about the 5 paths of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning as we're slowly reciting it. So let's just imagine that all sentient beings are reciting what we're reciting, thinking what we're thinking, hearing what we're hearing, getting the blessings that we're getting, and that we and all sentient beings have the same importance. And we're so happy that we've brought everyone here. Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature, form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics, there is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity, there is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I dhatu up to no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharma, no mind conscious dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth, since there is no deception. Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way. Deyata Om Gade Gade Bharagade Bharazam Gade Bodhisvanyada Om Gade Gade Bharagade Bharazam Gadi Bodhisvadhyada Om Gade Gade Bharagade Bharazam Gadi Bodhisvadhyada Om Gade Gade Bharagade Bharazam Adi Bodhisvadhyada Om Gade Gade Bharagade Bharazam Gadi Bodhisvadhyada. Thus Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Gala nyeme ne jodamba ne nguje du jo nga ye do do jen druba bola ma ye bo jinzi ne zongandra zola jadze lo agazamara de janra zamara ve agazamara. Aga samara dajandara samara yambe de ada onga de gade baragate barazangadi budizo baba gonjo sanji gai deme doji je lava doji meba doji shewa doji ragi baje mede veje danji je jingo ye zo gere donjo je je wada medo ne veje danje wada Jamba janji monzon zonjoji daji de jan den da de le jo. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. Lam Zimala za ye ju ni ja ba do do. I send forth this jewel mandala to you, precious Guru. Idam Guru Radha Mandala Gamni Radhayami. Nanye jadan je jana la janjo bado danye jazu je dagi je pezana je jala benje zanye jo bajo. Nanye jadan je jana la janjo bado danye jazu je dagi je pezana je jala benje zanye jo bajo. Danye jadan je jana la janju badu danye jazu je dagi je bezana je jala benje zanye jubayo. The one who is transformed into the reliable guide motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher Sugata and protector to you, I make prostration. The one who has eliminated the web of conceptualizations and is endowed with the divine bodies of the vast and the profound, who eternally shines forth the forever noble light rays, to you, the Buddha, I make prostrations. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. May I become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. May I be attending this teaching to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. May I be giving this teaching to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be able to understand and hear this teaching in their own individual languages. Okay. So happy Sunday again. Happy Sunday because we're doing something about our predicament. We have this wonderful life of leisure and opportunity that we're going to talk about and what that exactly means at this moment in our hands, but we find out that it's fleeting and we have to do something about it. So we're doing something about it, and that's what's beautiful. So we've gone over a lot of the topics of the Lam Rim already. We started looking at the outline of the Lam Rim with the 4 categories, just as a general outline. The greatness of the teaching's author, the greatness of the teaching, and then how to listen to and explain the teachings, and then how to lead students in the actual instructions. And we started with that first topic that we all can relate to so well, relying on a spiritual teacher. As I see everyone on the screen, had Kensur Geshe Wandak as their teacher. So they had a perfect example when we look at Maitreya's qualities of a teacher, and we look at the various excellent qualities that someone should have to be a teacher, and we compare them to Kensur Geshe Wandak, we'll find that we had a perfect example of a teacher and had perfect instructions. And now we're doing exactly what he wanted us to do. We're doing something about our predicament. We're doing something about our unhappiness, and we're doing something about our wish to achieve complete bliss. That's such a great thing. So we learned that the first topic was that we would need a teacher if we wanted to figure out how to end suffering and how to achieve bliss. And we would need a teacher who truly understood how that worked, exactly what the causes were to make all of the results that would be necessary, that would eventually, through dependent origination, lead up to our becoming Buddhas ourselves. So we realize how important now, having spent so much time with Kensur Geshe Wandak, and then looking at other information that is out there and being presented, I see how fortunate we were to have been presented with the path in such a clear way, without any error, and without going so fast that we were in over our heads. Rinpoche knew how to gently lead us by the hand, in a way that matured our minds individually. Well, I can speak for myself. It's been of great benefit in the maturation of my mind. And I knew that he, kind of sculpted and individualized a path for me. And that's the kind of teacher we rely on, one who has that kind of love and compassion, puts their hand out, and then has all of the qualifications to boot, if you will. So we see that in the first topic. And then Lama Tsongkhapa says, okay, now pump the brakes. I want to talk to you about how to meditate. And I want to talk to you about what will help with meditation, what will harm you in meditation, and so forth. And then Lama Tsongkhapa says, you first engage in the 6 preparations that we went over very clearly. And then after you do these 6 preparations before a meditation session, then you have a very specific topic that you're going to meditate on, maybe doing a glancing meditation over the whole path, and then a specific topic that you're going to meditate on, or whatever order of events you decide to do before you start to meditate. But you make sure that that's what you accomplish. So you don't set your expectations too high. You don't set your meditation sessions too long. You make sure that it's something that you can pull off, and you make sure that you do it. As we said, you don't get up till you finish your whole meal. You sit down to meditate. You set a realistic expectation about what you can do. And then you accomplish that, and you don't think about anything else. And if you see your mind starting to think about other things, you start to rein it back in, depending on your abilities as a meditator and what you've been trained to do. And that's why getting meditation training is so important, is because you start to learn how to rein the mind in if it's straying off topic. So right here in the beginning of the Lam Rim, even though Lama Tsongkhapa hasn't talked about how to meditate and the obstacles to meditation really in a detailed way, he's bringing up that, yes, you are going to, for once in your life, tell your mind what to do. Your mind's usually running around, as the sutras say, like a monkey, out of control, from one place to the other. And now you are going to say, mind, for the next minute and a half, for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, I'm going to do specifically this. It's like an outline. You've done these 6 preparations, and now you have this outline that you're not going to sway from. You may have a topic of analysis that you don't have your points in the outline, but you are not moving off your topic of analysis. Your points that you're analyzing are always related to your topic of analysis. So if you're saying I'm meditating on an overview of the path, then I'm going to meditate on the importance of relying on a spiritual friend. Of course, now you're thinking of, the greatness of a spiritual friend. How do I rely on thought? How do I rely on practice? How does that relate to my life? What could I actually do for a teacher today? How could I think about this in relation to my teacher who's passed? Really, you're putting the topic you're analyzing, it says, right in the center, and you're looking at it from every direction. So if that's what you've chosen to do only that about that topic. And make sure that you're not saying, the only thing that's really as important was a spiritual friend. Our Rinpoche was really great. I remember when we went here, and then you start, the beach was so lovely that day. And now you're thinking about the beach. And now all of a sudden, I think I may have actually taken a swim. And then you're thinking about swimming. Now you've realized that the pole you were trying to tie your mind to, something has happened. So you take, you're the spy in the corner of your mind of introspection, hopefully caught. Oh my gosh, that guy's swimming over there. He was supposed to have not forgotten the object of meditation, which was the relying on a spiritual teacher. Now he's swimming. Mindfulness is, okay, I can't forget the object of meditation. Introspection caught me, and mindfulness now grabs the mind back and brings it back to the not forgetting what the object of meditation is. But that introspection's in the corner. The introspection catches you swimming, right? And, because your mind can wander and start to justify your way out of your meditation. So basically, that's what we covered. And then you can read in the Lam Rim, it goes over to how to once you come out of your meditation, after you've decided what to meditate on, what you've placed your most importance, the most significance on, should be your post-meditation topic of inquiry, because it means that you're trying to realize a topic. What we're trying to do as we go through each of these topics in the Lam Rim is to do what it says in the Lam Rim that happens, that is our mind becomes saturated with the topic, right? And we know what our mind being saturated with the topic is like because we know the ABCs. We use this, and Rinpoche used this example all the time. We know what it would be like for our mind to be saturated with a topic. So we're doing this in order to saturate our mind with the topic. So our post meditation is as a support to our meditation, giving us more information to analyze, giving us more logic, giving us more understanding post meditation. And then Lama Tsongkhapa gives us all of these other advices on how to behave, how to, not to look at things that we shouldn't look at, and how not to engage our sense faculties when we shouldn't. If we start to notice that we're doing it, stop it there. And we start to look, stop it then. If we inadvertently look, but then we look on purpose, there's all these different stages that we can go through, and we can land right on just full on attachment or full on hatred. So we're really trying to guard our mind post-meditation to see if our actual meditation is working, to see if our Buddhist practice is working, see if we're acting like Buddhists, which means how Buddha explained we should act, right? Like what would a Buddhist do? Buddhist would go for refuge, sure, like technical definition. And then we'd get even more technical and say, agree with what Buddha said, because Buddha's a Buddhist and he doesn't have to go for refuge, right? Buddha Shakyamuni, if we go by Panchen Sunatrapa's technical stuff. But we would have to, so I lost my train of thought. It's okay. It happens from time to time. So very, very clear example of losing the object of meditation, thinking a little forward and losing the object of meditation. So we can do that even when we're talking or trying to concentrate on something. So you were just live witnesses to my mind jumping forward and losing, where it was in the present. So what we're always trying to do is stay in that present moment of understanding and try to keep our minds under as much control as we possibly can in meditation and then out of meditation. Our post-meditation, our meditation is supporting our post-meditation. Our post-meditation is supporting our meditation. All of it's really meditation. All of it's really familiarizing ourselves. But I think everybody understands what I mean, like sitting meditation, sitting on the cushion versus walking around in our daily life and the things we pick up. So then it gets into refuting things about misconceptions about meditation in the Lam Rim Chemo. So we won't read, straight out of that, but we see that there are these ideas that come up that, study and analysis, isn't going to lead to realization because it's conceptuality. And you start to see it just a minimal negation of the Hashan view of just emptying your mind, and that somehow would allow you to become enlightened and have realizations, and that actual analysis was a hindrance to meditation. So it starts to negate some of these ideas about meditation, and it doesn't do it in a very, very long fashion, so we won't. And it starts to talk about how you have both analytical meditation and then a single pointed or a concentration type of meditation. And it shows how both of these are necessary and how both of them eventually come together. You have to have very sharp wisdom, like that analogy of reading a book in a room. You need to have a very bright light in order to read a book in a dark room. But that light needs to be stable. If we look at it in terms of a candle, if it's blowing around, then it makes it hard for us to read. Even though the light's very bright, it makes it very hard to read. So what happens is our concentration, our single pointed meditation, kind of harnesses our mind in more and more and more, and allows us to have more control of our mind, and allows us to focus our mind at will. And then as we study and we engage in analysis and we look at texts, then we have real topics, and we have refined these real topics to focus clearly on. So this focused mind, this calm mind, then is able to act as a friend to this mind that's analyzing things, to slow it down more and more and more and more and more, till it can eventually have this very specific union, which is called calm abiding and special insight, where this concentration is a calm abiding that's able to then focus directly on an object of observation of emptiness that's been arrived at through analysis. So it's very, very interesting, and then single pointedly hold that in an abiding fashion. So here it's showing how analysis is important, how meditation, or what we would consider sitting, single pointed meditation, is important. So both of these things are important, and conceptual thought is a tool in getting to this non-conceptual direct perception of emptiness, and it's an indispensable tool, and it is required up to the moment before you see emptiness in order to see emptiness. So this conceptual analysis becomes necessary. So this is what it goes through, and then it gets into a very, very small section on what we're trying to combat in meditation, and so forth. And it talks about laxity and excitement. Laxity, that sinking of the mind, where the object of observation isn't clear, and then excitement, where the mind is moving to off and thinking in a busy way, so excited way, in a busy way. So Lama Tsongkhapa talks slightly about that. We'll get into more of that when we get into the concentration section. But we have to understand that, okay, so we'll read the summary of this section, and then everyone should take a look at the whole section. But the summary is, whether you understand that all the scriptures are personal instructions follows only from whether you know this meditative process. Follow those who have trained for a long time in the classic texts of the sutra and mantra vehicles may, when meditating on the path, interpret texts in which they have trained to support misconceptions, such as the ones mentioned above. What need is there to mention those who have not trained in the scriptural collections? Therefore, there is a need to establish this in a more detailed manner. Nevertheless, fearing verbosity, I have not written more than this. This concludes the explanation of the refutation of misconceptions concerning the method of sustaining meditation. So basically it goes over, that we need to engage in both analytical meditation and calm abiding, or single pointed meditation, ending at calm abiding, but on concentration, on pointed concentration, as well as analysis, and that we need to guard for excitement, and guard for laxity. It doesn't really get into much detail about that, and that the misconception that we just empty our mind and that conceptual thought is some sort of negativity is mildly refuted in this section. But it's really just the beginning of the text, which shows you just generally how to engage in thought about these meditation topics, and how, as you proceed, because we don't get into the meditation section until way later on in the text. So Lama Tsongkhapa gives you, he's so smart, a taste of what you'll be doing. So you have something to do with this material that he's presenting in the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity. So he gives you a little bit of taste of how you engage in analytical meditation, how you really become very specific about what you're going to analyze. Your post-meditation supports your sitting meditation. Your sitting meditation supports your post-meditation, and so forth. So very, very interesting, and then shows you how, when you're thinking about these topics, to guard your mind against excitement, and how to guard your mind against dullness, and how eventually, by completely guarding your mind against excitement and dullness, you could have calm abiding, and then through analysis, you could get to a point where you were so smart about emptiness, that you could take that calm abiding meditation and start to unite it with that intelligence, that wisdom, and it would turn it into dynamite that would blow samsara to pieces, which would allow you to see emptiness directly and stop misapprehending everything and stop acting in ways driven by afflictions, driven by inappropriate thinking, driven by ignorance. So really amazing. So now we get into this topic, the human life of leisure and opportunity. So this is the hope section. It's so beautiful. I had a bunch of hot sauce before I did this, which was not as good of an idea as I thought. So I'm quite thirsty. This section is so beautiful because this is the section where we start to develop this gratitude for the human basis that we have, and understanding its importance. And it's really what drives us into urgency. It's kind of like we're so grateful, we have this potential, and we can do all of these wonderful things, and we don't have all of these other things. We have all, and as we go through, what's great about the Lam Rim, if we were just approaching this, if we knew a little tiny bit about Buddhism, and then we read this part, it wouldn't mean as much to us as it does having gone through the Lam Rim already with Khensur Geshe Wandak once. So we now know how important this human basis is, because from it we can achieve nirvana. From it we can achieve Buddhahood. We can get bodhicitta. We know that this is the best basis from which to get bodhicitta. So the first reader doesn't know this. So that's why any great Lama always says that every time you go through the Lam Rim, the later sections begin to support the earlier sections support the later sections, and it just becomes one big picture that's just ornaments on each other. Because the way someone would look at leisure and opportunity who hadn't understood this potential for Buddhahood and how incredible we can become, and how believable it is through logic and reasoning, it's not as powerful when we talk about this leisure and opportunity basis that we have. But when we look at what we know about the stages of the path and the potential of those stages of the path, and then apply it to this section that seems like, oh yeah, the basis of leisure and opportunity, I've heard it a million times. This section becomes what allow us to wake up in the morning full of gratitude and full of happiness, that, oh my, I've woken up. As Nagarjuna said, it's incredible that I've woken up and I'm actually breathing in and out. I have a chance. Here's this section that says you have this opportunity. It's right in your hands. Think about all the things that, even if your life isn't exactly the way you want it to be, it has all of this and it doesn't have all of that. So it's really such an important section, because when we look at it, we see that it drives kind of some confidence. It drives our gratitude. It drives happiness. It makes us feel not defeated. It increases our self-esteem, because we know it's this basis that bodhisattvas in the higher realms pray to be born into, because there's just enough suffering to see and hear and sentient beings to help and feel and understand, that just fuels that renunciation, that fuels their desire to free sentient beings. There's a wrong idea that a bodhisattva doesn't have a desire to emerge from cyclic existence. It says that no, they have more of one because they have to help people. It's an urgency to help sentient beings. They want to get out, and now they say, oh, there's this urgency So there's even more renunciation, because in order for them to help sentient beings, they have to get out. So the renunciation is fueled even stronger. Their purposes become more advanced, right? But the fuel of it becomes stronger and stronger because of having this human basis to hear about suffering, see suffering, feel and experience things that in the higher pure lands wouldn't really be an experience. It's something to think about. So what does it mean? So there's a section, the exhortation to take full advantage of leisure and opportunity. I beg you, you really should do this, and this is why. And you see this in the sutras. You see this in Nagarjuna's text. We find the 8 leisures and the 10 opportunities. So we'll quickly look at what those are, because it's important to understand where we're at. What's our current state of being? Literally, what's our current state of being? What do we got? What do we have? So this is going to start to tell us what we have, in case we've forgotten how wonderful this opportunity we have is. And Rinpoche spoke about it very, very often. We have this human basis that's worth more than a wish-fulfilling jewel. If we had a wish-fulfilling jewel, we couldn't ask for everlasting happiness and freedom from suffering. There's nothing that can make that happen except the maturation of our Buddha nature, right? So this is what can make that happen. So this human basis is what can make that happen. This human basis can study this material. This human basis can engage in meditation and so forth, and then become a Buddha. And dependence upon this basis, I can become a Buddha. If I had a wish-granting jewel, I couldn't ask it for that, but I can ask this basis for that. So we start to look at, I can ask this basis. This basis is better than a wish-granting jewel. I can ask this basis, if I can control my mind, to direct it towards virtue, to direct it towards Buddhahood. I can ask it for something that it can actually produce. Milarepa, in one lifetime, through relying on a teacher and through relying on the practices, was able to produce Buddhahood. Independence upon a body just like this one, not like a special body that he, had, on a dependence on the body just like this one. He was able to achieve Buddhahood. As we become more and more learned in the Buddha's teachings, this human basis that we have and how precious it is becomes more and more reinforced. So we look at Nagarjuna's friendly letter, where it states that to be born with wrong views or without a conqueror's word, or as an animal, a hungry ghost, hell being, an uncultured person in a border region, a stupid or mute person, a deity of long life, is to be afflicted by one of the 8 faults that are conditions which lack leisure. After you have attained leisure, which is freedom from these, strive and end birth. So it talks about, first of all, we aren't born in the 3 lower realms. Okay, so we can see one of them. We've read about the others. The others sound really bad when we look at the 8 hot hells, the 8 cold hells. And we look at the hungry ghost realm, and we look at the animal realm that we can see. We can read about those 2 realms we can't see, and we can see the realm that we can see, and see that there's a lot of suffering and a lot of missed opportunity, if you will. If those states are like they mentioned in the hell and hungry ghost realm, then there's no opportunity there to study and practice Dharma. And if the states are what they seem to be in the animal realm, it doesn't look like there's any opportunity for them to study or even say one Om Mani Padme Hum, let alone analyze emptiness or hear and understand emptiness and be able to make their way through the 5 paths and the emptiness of those 5 paths. So we see right in front of our eyes beings that if we believe in rebirth and beginningless lives and endless future lives, that potential is right around the corner for us. And at this very moment, we aren't in that state. So it has the 3 lower realms of cyclic existence in there. We haven't been born an uncultured barbarian in a border region. So we're not in this border region area that, in the middle of nowhere where we wouldn't have an opportunity to hear about the Dharma and the teachings and so forth. So we haven't been born anywhere like that. We aren't born with wrong views that would not allow us to have the understanding of the Dharma. We aren't born in a place where there's no conqueror's word. So we don't have that going on. We have the conqueror's word, we have the Dharma, we have an opportunity to study it. And we aren't born as someone who can't hear and understand the teachings. We're here listening to the teachings right now. So that rules all of what those categories are talking about out. And we aren't a long life deity. So we aren't in this super, super high realm where there's so much happiness that we don't want to bother studying. So it says the 8 leisures. What does this leisure mean? What is the meaning of this word referring to? We have the leisure to engage in virtue. It's a position from which we can engage in Dharma. That's what our freedom is. Sometimes it's translated as freedom. We're free to go practice virtue. Whereas these other states, we wouldn't be free to engage in the Dharma practice. If there was no Buddha's word here, how could we engage in the Dharma practice? If we were an animal, a hungry ghost, a hell being, a long life deity, right? If we had these wrong perverted views, or we were born somewhere in a side region where there was no understanding of anything, or we couldn't hear or understand the teachings, we can see how we wouldn't have the freedom to practice, right? If we had any of those things. So we are free from those leisureless states, freedomless states. So we have freedom. We have the freedom to engage in virtue. We have the freedom to engage in practice. So this basis from which we can engage in practice is an incredible basis, right? It's the best basis to use at our stage. So we look at all of those things and we say, wow, I do have a very good opportunity here. This isn't just something, that's being said. If we analyze it over and over and over and over and over again, this allows us to become happy and have courage and self-esteem. And when we start to look at the more advanced teachings, and we say we have Buddha nature, right? We have this human basis. All beings have Buddha nature, but we have a human basis with Buddha nature. And this basis is the best thing to have this proliferation, this maturation of my mental consciousness. So, wow, we wake up in the morning and say, oh my gosh, I don't have, all of these unfortunate circumstances. I have the freedom to engage in those things which will end my suffering and make me happy forever. So this is what these teachings do for us. They give us that confidence and courage. So then the next thing that they talk about, and we see in, I believe, Asanga's Shravaka levels, that it talks about the opportunities being of 10. So we see leisure and opportunity when we say the human life of leisure and opportunity, or freedom and endowment sometime. So opportunity or endowment, these are all referring to the same thing. So there's opportunities that pertain to oneself personally, and then there's opportunities that are external or pertaining to others. So we start with the opportunities pertaining to oneself. And we see that there are the 5: being human, being born in a central region, having complete sensory faculties, having reversible karma, and having faith in the source. So we look at these really quickly. We see we're a human. So we have this personal opportunity right now. So we can start. Okay, we start listing them on our fingers, right? Okay, so how many of the opportunities do we currently have? We're a human. Okay, so that's one. So Asanga says that the opportunity that we have pertaining to ourselves is 5. The first one we can say we have, are we born in a central area? Is it somewhere basically that the Dharma teachings are around in full force? we could debate it, but we can see that there are monasteries forming, if we're looking at, how big technology is, what is a region now, if we can just talk to someone in India and have class with them, 3 times a week, which I do, is that our region? So we're born somewhere where these practitioners are. We can conclude that. We have the practitioners in the area we're an essential region. We have our complete sensory faculties. We're able to hear the teachings. We're able to read texts. We have those. So now we've got 3 of them. We have reversible karma. We haven't killed our mother. We haven't killed our father. We haven't killed an arhat. We haven't drawn blood from a Buddha. We haven't divided the Sangha. So we haven't done any of those 5 things. It says, and even if we have, the 4 opponent powers will allow us to purify them. So even if we have, it says in the texts, killed our mother, killed our father, drawed blood from an arhat, divided the Sangha. I drawed blood from killed an arhat, or drawed blood from a Buddha, or divided the Sangha. If we'd done any of those things, we could still purify them with the 4 opponent powers. We have that. So that's number 4, and faith in the source. So here the source says in the teachings on discipline, and in the Lam Rim Chemo, it talks about discipline being specifically the 3 baskets, the Sutra basket, the Abhidharma basket, and the Vinaya basket. So we know that we haven't done any of those things, and we have all of those conditions that are just mentioned. So I just want to check one thing. So just real quickly, I want to go through the 5 heinous acts just to make sure in the right order: killing one's father, killing one's mother, killing an arhat, drawing blood from a Buddha, and causing division in the Sangha. Yeah, we covered all of those. I just always want to double check. When we're moving very quickly through this stuff, it's important to make sure if we're moving quickly, we're saying it exactly accurately. We are. So those are the 5 opportunities that pertain to yourself: being a human born in central land, having complete sense faculties, reversible karma, and faith in the source. Moving on, we move on to the opportunities that pertain to others. And now we can also debate this section. There's various commentaries that do so, but let's look at it. The Buddha has visited. This is literally talking about like now, like the Buddha has visited, if we are being literal. And we see in the bottom here in the commentary in the Lam Rim Chemo, where it says that, we have to kind of look at this in a more nominal way, in name, and a lot of the commentaries justify it as it is actual. But we'll take a look at it and see. So the Buddha has visited. So we know that the Buddha visited 2,600, right, almost years ago, and we weren't alive, that we know of. We're not, that Jeff wasn't as Jeff at that time. But Jeff is in a time where the Buddha has visited. So it can be interpreted as 2 ways, but the literal way is to interpret it as during my time a Buddha visited. Like literally in this world, a Buddha came. And I could have, seen or studied with the student of Shakyamuni, like directly. The sublime teaching is being taught, that the teaching remains, that there are those who follow it and their care for others. So it gets into it. It says that the first 4 at present, if we're being sticklers, Lama Tsongkhapa says are incomplete. So we look at the Buddha visited, the sublime teaching being taught, that the teaching remains, and that there are those who follow it. That's really within the time of the actual Buddha's lifespan. When you look at the commentary here, it says the sublime teaching is being taught means that the Buddha or the disciples that are imparting the teaching, the teacher and disciples, direct disciples, the Buddha or the disciples are imparting the teaching. The teaching remains means that it is not degenerating to the time of becoming a Buddha and giving the teaching until the Buddha passes to nirvana. So you see these qualifying factors that it's really within the span of a life of a Buddha, technically speaking. But then Lama Tsongkhapa says that we can say that there's an approximation of 3 of the 4, Lama Tsongkhapa says. So the Buddha visited, Lama Tsongkhapa says that, he doesn't see how we can say, we can qualify that we're there at that time. But he says that we can say that the sublime teaching is being taught, the teachings are remaining, and there's followers of the teaching. Those are complete for us. So it depends on how we look at it, but many of the more modern commentaries definitely say that we have the Buddha has visited into our world system, because we have such a good history, and we have all of these texts. We have the Kanjur and Tanjur. We have historical, facts and so forth that the Buddha's visited. The sublime teaching is being taught. The teaching remains. There are those who follow it, and there are those who care for others. So this caring for others means that there are benefactors supporting the teaching. That there are those supporting the monastics, supporting whatever teachings are going on to allow them to go on, because obviously in society, there are monetary needs. And if people are studying and giving teachings and so forth, there needs to be livelihoods and they need to eat. So if there are benefactors supporting the process, it means that the outer conditions of the teachings being there can be there. And we see that those are present at this time. The Dharma is really, in some ways flourishing in a less hysterical way. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. In the 20 or something years ago, there was this just mass, everybody got into Buddhism for a minute. I don't know, it was 20 years ago or so. It was very popular in music festivals. You'd see Tibetan monks at music festivals on stage. They'd be making mandalas, and they'd have spiritual tents, and it became very popular for a period of time. And a lot of people were going to teachings, like filling up teaching halls wherever lamas were going. And it seemed to kind of die down a little bit, but serious practitioners still remain. And you see with like Venerable Children at Shravasti Abbey, they still remain, kept doing what they were doing, kept doing what they're doing. And now we see really firm, stable Dharma institutions that are really going to be heavy, heavy foundations for the future of Western Buddhism being formed, because it took time, and it took time to see who was really serious enough to have the stick-to-itiveness enough to care, right? To have this caring for others enough, to have the benefactors to support it enough, to find people that found it valuable enough. And, if it's just a mass hysteria and it's something popular, people don't really find enough value to sustain. And it's by meditating on things like this where you find the value to sustain your practice. Meditating on this life of leisure that you have the opportunity to practice, that the Buddha's teachings are here, that you have beings that have realized these teachings that you've met that are still alive in this world, that you could, get on a plane and go meet. They aren't beings that you could never see. We have an opportunity in our life to taste the Dharma, not just look at it as words and information that we gather to sound smart. We can actually taste this Dharma, and we can allow it to change our lives and change our minds, change how we wake up, change how we go about our day. And that's what this is for. And the Lam Rim takes us by the hand through this, says, okay, you need a teacher, make sure it's someone very qualified. Okay. It's like talking to us in a very calm way. You've got a very qualified teacher. Think like this about all the stuff I'm going to talk about. If you're going to meditate, you better do it like this. Just think of a few things and only think about those few things. And I've given you one topic here, start here. And then, Lama Tsongkhapa says you should just have such gratitude, such happiness, right? And understand that, oh my, I have this life. I have this opportunity. I can go and practice. I can go do anything that I want. And then Lama Tsongkhapa says, and here, check this out. Now I'll tell you about the 3 kinds of persons. There's, what kind of, leisure, how, much freedom do you want, right? Do you want to just be free from the lower realms? Hey, there's people. He goes through a general presentation of the three scopes. It's very interesting. He doesn't go over it in detail because obviously he gets into the medium scope later on, right? But he gives a quick presentation of the three scopes. So he says, you have this life, you have this opportunity, right? And then you could be a person like this, or you could be a person like this. It's just guiding us through right by the hand. Like, you're almost looking at pamphlets, like, or you could be a doctor, or you could be a lawyer, or you could be you're looking at these things. Tsongkhapa is so skilled. He says, this is how you think about these things. And you have this human life of leisure and opportunity. And this is, you could be someone who just tried to get out of the lower realms, or you could be someone who wanted nirvana, or you could be someone who wants to become a Buddha. There's these three types of people out there, and there's these three things that happen from the realizations of these three types of people, but really they're all connected, and that they're called in common because the small is in common with the medium, and the medium's in common with the great, and the small and medium are in common with the great, et cetera, et cetera. So it says, you have all these, you have this life of leisure, and these are the three kinds of things that you can become. These are the kind of people you can become. If you're a Dharma practitioner, you'll fall into one of these categories. You'll definitely be thinking about your next life, because that's what makes you a Dharma practitioner. A spiritual practitioner is thinking about their future life. So then we're all geared up, right? We have so much gratitude. We're so happy. We have a teacher. We have this human life, and we could be all these different things. We could be what we want. We could be a small scope. We could be a medium scope. We could be a great scope. And then he's going to tell us how to do it. It's so exciting. I can, because I'm a human. I'm finding out I have this opportunity. And then Lama Tsongkhapa says, okay, so you can be this, you can be that. And you're going to die. That's the next chapter, mindfulness of death. Very interesting, right? So very clear how the Lam Rim is shaping our mind and changing us as beings, and making us first say, okay, we have a little intelligence. So we have this wonder, right? We generate from the greatness of the teachings, the greatness of the teachings author. We have this sense of wonder of how we have this opportunity to hear this great thing from these great people. And then there's a little instruction. So this is how you're going to have to listen to these teachings. This is how you explain these teachings, and you're going to need a teacher. And then it says, okay, this teacher, you find out, is the source of all my happiness. And now I've got a teacher. I'm so happy. I have what will make me happy forever, what can make me not suffer forever, because it says the source of all of that is a teacher. I've got that. And I've got the body. I've got this human basis to do something about it with. Here's all these options. I got small scope, medium scope, great scope options. And now you have to realize you're going to die. And this gives you a sense of urgency. So the Lam Rim is shaping our mind into beings that are always practicing Dharma in a skillful way, that's in a logical way, that's not in some blind faith way. We're establishing it. We're saturating our minds with it. As it says in this meditation section, what we're doing with our meditation, what we're trying to make these topics do. We're not just trying to have a cursory glance at these topics. We're trying to make these topics really, really part of who we are. And until we do that, our minds aren't going to have that stability to be able to, at the time of death, certainly, do anything about our predicament, right? If we haven't reined in our minds and we don't, haven't thought about this stuff really well, we're not going to have a chance if it's not on the tip of our fingers, as Geshe Dorje Damdu would say. If this stuff's not on the tip of your fingers, you're in major, major trouble. He teaches this advanced thing, and then he comes to the next class and says, this stuff better be on the tip of your fingers. And it's really, really true. And I see it. Meditating is making the mind take on the state or condition of the object of meditation. It's taking it on. Now, all of it, then that can be argued, what kind of meditation is that talking about, and so forth. So, but you're really trying to take on that topic. You're really trying to say, I have so much gratitude. I have so much opportunity. I have this human basis. I have all these excellent qualities. I don't have all these other negative qualities. The teachings are right here. I have a teacher. I've been presented with pure Dharma. I've been presented with the three scopes, but I do realize that I'm going to die. Death will come. Nothing can stop it. I don't know when, and the only thing that can help me is Dharma. We already learned that the source of all our happiness and freedom from suffering is the teacher. We know what the teacher teaches. The teacher teaches the teachings for beings of three capacities. We saw that over and over and over again. How many times did I say, understand there are persons of three capacities, small, medium, and great. I shall write clearly to identify their characteristics. How many times did I say that on a Sunday, translating for Rinpoche? I mean, he said it 500 times at least, and that was what his main goal was, to bring us through the stages for beings of three capacities, because it's those stages that allow us to actually be free. And then we start to look around and say, wow, everyone around us has this life of leisure and opportunity, but they don't know anything about the Dharma, and it increases our compassion. They have all of this opportunity they don't even know about, and they're going to be forced into cyclic existence. So, wow, my level of understanding and my gratitude isn't even part of their lives. And then when someone gets angry at you, they're so like, almost like they've been robbed, right? In this life. Maybe previous lives, they had this knowledge and they were so rich, but it's like they're so poor right now. Because they're not understanding how to take use of a leisure and opportunity. What are you going to do when they yell at you? Are you going to make use of your leisure and opportunity? They're not making use of their leisure and opportunity. You've just meditated. You realize this topic. People are bored with this topic, right? Oh, 8 leisures and 10 opportunities. I'm so bored with these topics. I hear, like I've heard for many, many years, like the beginning of the Lam Rim, the first volume, But if you realize you have leisure and opportunity and you walk around with gratitude and you know that doing something about it is abandoning anger, because Shanti Deva says there's nothing worse than anger. It destroys all of your root virtues. So then somebody comes at you angrily and they're yelling and you see they're destroying their root virtues and they have a human basis of leisure and opportunity. Changes the way you react a little bit, I think, if you've realized this topic. If you understand karma, which comes a little bit after death, if you understand karma, you see what's going on there. You see somebody's just like under a spell, out of control in front of you, who has leisure and opportunity and doesn't even know it. That poor, poor being. They're under a spell. They have leisure and opportunity. They don't even know it. They don't see that whatever I'm doing that's making them upset has no inherent existence. They don't see that there's an empty, it's just a collection of sounds coming out of my mouth that they're putting together through their discrimination and they're feeling a way about. And then they have an intention one way or another to be attached or angry. They're not seeing that. I'm not seeing that if I'm not looking. So all of these teachings allow us to behave differently. So that post-meditation off the cushion session they're talking about, where you're guarding things, you're able to apply the teachings to act as a guard, to see someone's out of control. They're like a puppet under the control of their karma and their afflictions. Their ignorance is just like making all this movement in front of us. That's empty. It's just dependent origination of karma and afflictions, a body, an intention and a mind that's making a body do this and a body say that, right? That's all that's happening. There's karma that's going on in front of me. That person doesn't have any control. That person doesn't really have any choice. It's all empty. It's all dependent origination. I don't have any choice but to experience it because I've created some karma to experience it. They have a life of leisure and opportunity just like I do. They're not using it. What am I going to do to use it? They can't see my emptiness. I could see their emptiness if I started to think about it. I could see the karma that's happening if I started to think about it. So this is what we do with this information. This information is all so important. They don't have they don't even know that a Buddha came to this world and that there's people practicing it and people teaching it. And they don't even know about that, let alone feel good about themselves because it happened. They don't have that extra self-esteem you have. They're poor in the self-esteem department, no matter how much they have, no matter how many money and all this fame and riches and whatever you see that we search after in this life, that bait, that suffering of change, happiness that we seek after, whatever they have, they're lacking self-esteem compared to someone who understands this. Because they don't know that from this body, they think that if they get a new car, that's their wish-fulfilling jewel. Or if they had a wish-fulfilling jewel, they'd ask for 10 cars and an airplane. But it could never give them anything but bait. They don't have the kind of self-esteem that we have. They don't have the potential for that. They don't know they have Buddha nature. They don't know that they have the natural Buddha nature, which is this emptiness of the mind, and this proliferating bodhicitta, which is this mind that can change into something better. They don't know. They don't know this mind could be emptied of everything that makes it suffer and filled with everything that makes it blissful. They don't know. They think all of these other things will do it. So when these sorts of beings are interacting in a way with us that we don't like, we should say, oh, it's so sad. What could I do to try to make them not have to experience the wiping out of their root virtues? It's a lot to think about, right? But somebody who has their mind taken, the mind take on the state or condition of the object of observation, that's a few moments in the mind. Oh my God, it's empty. No, don't react, right? Somebody who has this stuff in their mind and saturated human life, leisure, and opportunity, and karma and emptiness can bring that so quickly. You know, if someone can meditate on all the stages of the path and the time it takes to put one foot in a stirrup and kick the leg over a horse into another stirrup, if a great geshe can meditate on the entire path in that period of time, imagine what you can do in the moment of an interaction. Where now when we look at how an interaction happens, we come in contact with something. Look at low rig for a second. We come in contact with something and then we zone in, we pay attention to it. Okay. And then we discriminate it. Oh boy, that person's yelling at me, right? Oh, that's a person who's yelling and angry at me. And then how does that make me feel? Oh, I don't like the way that makes me feel. This is all happening kind of like very quickly in our minds. And that's why as we become more and more skilled at meditation and controlling our mind, we can actually stop it and be more reasonable at certain points in this. So we have come in contact with an object, we pay attention to it, then we discriminate what it is, and then it makes us feel a certain way. And then our mind pushes or pulls, right? We have an intention that draws ourselves towards it or pushes it away and gets angry, starts yelling, get out of me, get out of me, get away from my face. Or we see something we really want and we become obsessed with it. And we just start with this improper mental conduct and we think that it's so great and we turn it into something that it can't possibly be. So it really, really takes us understanding that where did this all begin? Well, how could I change my reaction? How could I change the intention, the karma, right? Basically the action that's going to happen. If I draw towards the object and can't get it, I'll have anxiety and depression. If I try to push away an object and that doesn't happen, I'm going to have anxiety and depression and anger, just fueling, right? So how can I fix that? How do I fix that result, right? This not wanting the directions I don't want to go in, and sitting in that state of anxiety. Well, then I have to then fix how it makes me feel. And the only way I can do that is fix how I look at it. So what am I paying attention? What I come into contact and pay attention to? Well, how am I discriminating that object? And that's where this all comes in. This starts to fix your reaction at that level. when you are practicing this stuff properly. At the discriminating level, where you're discriminating what's coming at you, you're able to more realistically discriminate it because your mind is saturated with the truth. Your mind is saturated with this understanding. It doesn't have a kind of a cursory understanding of it. Or, oh, wait. I know those 7. Hold on. Let me think. It's 1, it's 2. You know what I mean? There's not like that at all. Like, you know what I mean? You could be in traffic and horns honking. And what are the 7 of those? Bah, 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 bah. You could just yell them out the window, right? No problem. Mind totally distracted in the midst of chaos, and you could list anything that you know, right? Even drunk people can sometimes recite the alphabet on 1 foot or something. I don't know, because it's so ingrained in their mind. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about applying every single bit of the Lam Rim, every part, not leaving out any bit, to your minds, and seeing how Lama Tsongkhapa is grooming us into Buddhas through this process. And if we just allow Lama Tsongkhapa to groom us, and we don't try to go off on all these offshoots and learn something different, and something that sounds a little more fun, right? If we allow this grooming to take place, it's what will actually cause results to happen. And I was speaking with Geshe Aga. I said it the other day on class. I think it's worth repeating though. The other day about, I was saying to him, and I wasn't being judgmental. I was just talking about Dharma in the West and what's really been beneficial and worked. And, I was just saying that I've known a lot of people, I'm not in this, just other circles that I have of Dharma practitioners that I know from a long time ago, that I've run into over the years, that it just seemed like it was just information they were gathering, initiations they were gathering. It don't seem like anything different was really happening. There wasn't seeming like a transformation. And who am I to judge? I'm just trying to observe. This is just a guy. I'm trying to make my way through all of this, trying to understand what works in the West. Is it lots and lots of information, or is it less information because we already have so much information in our lives anyway? So I was just saying that I've seen this where these scholars, these people who could, tell you all of everything, and even geshes who could tell you all of everything, but it didn't seem to touch the mind. And first of all, we don't know if it did or not. So that's the first place you start with what Geshe had to say, right? Our perceptions are screwy. He said that, Chen Reza could come up with 1,000 arms in front of us and we'd find fault in the deity and somehow try to turn that into something bad. So he said, let's start there. Our perceptions are a little screwy, and change goes very slowly. So you don't know how much change has taken place in the mind, unless you've been watching that person's mind. Let's start there. But he said there seems to be also, he has noticed people who just amass information, amass initiations. They can recite every division and every text in a very impressive way. But he says it's really curious. It doesn't seem like that anything's happened, really. There's still just doesn't seem like anything's happened, except they know a bunch of stuff more than they used to. And he said, well, you really have to integrate this into your life. It has to be who you really are. From the first topic to the second topic, it has to be who you really are. If it's not, it's just information you know about. You may know about science. You may know about this. You may know about that. You may know how to fix computers or cars, right? It's just stuff you know about. It'll be of benefit and leave imprints. But if it isn't who you are, if you haven't integrated into your life, first of all, it becomes very obvious. And secondly, you become like this person. And he said it'd be like someone who was, imagine if someone was homeless their whole life, right? They never owned one item. They always relied on everyone for their food, They never, made it out of the town square. Imagine this type of person. But all day, all this person did was walk around and say, everybody should have a jet airplane, and list all the qualities of a jet airplane and why jet airplanes are the best kinds of things to own, and why everyone should have a house and how they should furnish a house, and listing all of these things about it. But then when you walk up and say, well, have you ever owned a house? Have you ever owned a jet airplane? The person says no. So they've never lived it. They have no experience with the things that they're talking about. They're just words to them. They're just listing things out, pictures, like a child. Oh, that's an airplane, and that's a this, and that's a that. And this is the 70 divisions of the Abhisamalamkara, and that's a couch, right? And these are the divisions of phenomenon classifications. But how do all of those divisions change your mind into a Buddha? And everything that we study, we should be looking at. I'm doing this to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. How is this making me become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings? How is this going to make me become a better person so I can become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings? And then when you get up out of your meditation and you're walking around, am I applying what I learned in this practice in some way to become a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings? Am I actually applying what I've learned? You couldn't take this book, any 2 pages of the Lam Rim Chemo, volume 1, 2, or 3, and not find something to apply to your day that day. It would be impossible if you looked at it in a clear way in terms of the stages of the path to enlightenment. So I just encourage everyone to take this information and put it into your minds and into your life. Rinpoche said the same thing over and over and over again about engaging in virtue, abandoning non-virtue, right? Engage in the ethics that abandons the 10 non-virtuous activities and acknowledge your downfalls. So Rinpoche was so clear that we should engage in practice. And we should, when we look at our malas, for instance, the great masters, yes, we can count all of our fancy mantras on our malas every single day. But when we do our confession at the end of the day, and we look at the things that we shouldn't have done and the things we should abandon, and we look at the 4 opponent powers, and we establish the basis of the Buddhas being a refuge, and we establish the basis of going for refuge and bodhicitta, and then we have a regret for what we've done. We are establishing specific things that we've done, and we can use our mala to count 1. We did that, right? And then we then, put some sort of an antidote to the negativity, the 3rd opponent power, mantras or something. We've taught this many times. We can teach it in the future in a more vast fashion, and then making a commitment to not engage in that negativity again. So you're talking about a negativity. So the great masters not only use their malas for counting fancy mantras, but also counting how many things they did wrong throughout the course of the day. And you may have some that are like standing orders on there, like, since beginningless time, the things that I forgot I did, and the things I did in this life I forgot I did. But then, you get past your standing orders, if you will, that you're always going to kind of have on there for your general confession. And when you get into the specific things you've done that day, or that, that morning, afternoon, or evening, you can see the progress you're making if you're being honest. Is it taking you half your mala? Is it taking you your whole mala? Is it taking you 10 malas? No judgment, right? I've lived in ways where I don't know. I would have made malas with my hands, feet, and everything to keep it, counting. All the negativities, but we can start to see how our minds worked every day by counting our negativities on our mala. And when we get done, we can go like this. Take a look, right? Is it as long as it was yesterday? If it was longer, then what happened? Introspection spy wasn't watching? Were we not remembering what we were supposed to do with mindfulness? And was the introspection spy of our mind not keeping us from doing things we shouldn't? What can we do to make it better tomorrow? I don't want to count out, 29 of my 108 beads. I know the first 6, I don't have any control over. They're general standing orders, but all of these extra beads, what happened today? And that's how we start to really look at the mirror of the Dharma and use tools like a mala for something that could really transform us into a tantric deity. Watching our minds and having a foundation of ethics is the only thing that starts the fertile ground of turning into a tantric deity. Without that foundation in ethics, we see the 3 kinds of ethics: the ethics of the individual liberation, the bodhisattva ethics, and the tantric ethics. It's ethics, ethics, ethics. If we don't have ethics as that foundation, none of it'll work. So that's why counting it and checking it and making sure we're doing an okay job with it is a practice of the great masters. I could do that a lot more. And I recently was reminded of that and thought, wow, what a powerful instruction. We usually take this out at the end of the night to do some Tara visualization or Chenrezig visualization or whatever we do. But what if we used it to check our minds also? And that is a very powerful practice. So with that, anybody have any questions? Triwa Yurbe. I was bringing a little Rinpoche in. Triwa Yurbe. That's what he would always say. That means, do you have any questions in Tibetan? Yes, Priscilla. Oh, I have to unmute all. Hold on. I don't know how to do this, I don't think. Participants are somewhere here in this.
I unmuted myself. It's fine.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Magic.
Power.
So I would just like, there are 3 thank yous I would like to say. And Jeff, I want to thank you for continuing with this teaching with Thursdays and Sundays.
Thank you.
I'm very grateful. I want to thank Lich for all the help he has given you with the technical end of things, because that everyone benefits from that.
Yes, definitely.
And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. I want to let you finish. I'm sorry.
I have a special thank you to Alessandra. My dog almost died from a toxic poisoning. And Alessandra checked in on Facebook almost every day about how Beauregard was doing and doing mantras for him, and whatever else she did that I didn't know about. And I am so very grateful. And just to let you know.
Yeah, we have a really wonderful group of people who are very caring and compassionate. Beauregard! Hey, buddy.
He is alive.
Yeah, awesome. It's so cool. Wonderful.
So no, he almost died. And it was anyway, it was practice.
Thank you. Yeah,
so
go ahead.
No, that's all. I just wanted to say some thank yous. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. It gives me courage to keep going and to keep looking at new information. And I really, really appreciate you being open to me, giving teachings and carrying on Rinpoche's tradition. It's just been so beneficial. Yeah, all of you have been so helpful. I talked to everybody on the side here and there about one thing or another. And Lich has been very helpful, especially with the new shorts thing I'm trying to make. Because I'm trying to navigate this kind of younger world of TikTok where there's a lot of like flashy things. So I was trying to maybe do some flashy things. And Lich was like, cut it out, stop. Just put your face as close as you can and be Jeff. And it's actually, as I do that more and more, more people like it. It's affecting more people. And it's actually, what I'm trying to do is I figure if someone's going through this thing, right? If positivity can shoot out for 15, 20, 30 seconds, it's an imprint. And in today's fast moving world, I'll take that in terms of helping sentient beings. If we can just light up somebody's life for 15 or 30 seconds and make them think about generosity, ethics, or think about these things, I think it's a great thing. And I would like to do it in the most professional manner possible. So Lich is helping so much with that. And I like Lich's style of teaching because he's very direct. He's Geshe Gompo style. And also, just as an aside, and I won't say anything more than that, but most of the teachings are also outfitted by Lich. We'll just leave it at that. Thank you. It's through dependent origination that things can be the way they are and look the way they are. And yeah, Lich was very kind with a wardrobe, many a wardrobe, my wardrobe choices many years ago. And I take care of my stuff. So thank you. But thank you, all of you. And I just want to do the dedications if there's nothing else. I don't see any other hands. We will get together another time. We got together at Chatfield Hall. I'd like to see everybody be able to get together. So we'll do it like a little further in advance. And I don't even know where it will be at. And weather's always a situation, but we had a little nice get together where we got to do some Tara mantras and stuff and see some people that we don't see on Zoom because they have other things that they're doing at this time. So yeah, we'll get to do that soon. But in closing, let's do the 8 verses for training the mind from Geshe Langri Tamba, which we see is so important in the mind training lineage. And we're learning on Thursday nights now about equalizing and exchanging self with others, which is in the mind training tradition. And this is one of the main texts that they use to explain what is meant by changing your mind and cherishing others. And then we see the 7-point thought transformation and mind training like the rays of the sun and the 37 practices of the bodhisattvas. And we see so many other texts that come from this text, and then this text coming from the beautiful works of Buddha Shakyamuni, and then Nagarjuna and Shantideva. So we read 8 verses for training the mind by Geshe Langri Tamba. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all and respectively hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer victory to them. When the one whom I benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone, without exception, all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. Now, again, as we do these concluding prayers, I make sure that we visualize all the Buddha's gurus and teachers, and Kensei Geshe Wandak, all being so pleased, and all sentient beings around you, and however much of the visualization we talked about at the beginning of the class you can do. And now imagine we're making a Thanksgiving offering of a mandala, and then dedicating our virtue. And then also very, very important, always remembering that the prayer is empty, the prayer, we are empty, the praying is empty. It's very important for us to not look at these things as having true objective existence, only subjective existence. So we need to look at that as we do these prayers as well. So we see all the gurus, Buddhas, and bodhisattvas, all sentient beings around us, all the gurus, Buddhas, and bodhisattvas, and all of their activities are empty of true establishment. Ourselves and all sentient beings are empty of true establishment. And we imagine that we're engaging in this offering in that manner, knowing that true establishment doesn't mean non-existent, and through dependent origination, we're engaging in virtue. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure land. I dedicate whatever virtues I have collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang Drapa to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the 3 times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all powerful Avalokiteshvara, Tenzin Jatsu, may you stay until samsara's end. I pray that we may never be separated in any of our lives from Kensar Geshe Wandak in whatever form he or she chooses to show us, whether it's an emanation body in our world system or the enjoyment body when we become Arya Bodhisattvas. May we in all lives always meet with this perfect being and become Buddhas ourselves and aid him or her in freeing all sentient beings from suffering and bringing them to bliss. Thank you so much, everyone. I really do appreciate it. Please change your minds this week. Make them better, even if it's a little tiny bit. If others don't notice it, don't worry about it. You're the only one who knows.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Melinda.
Have a good week, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I
Thank
appreciate
you all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, yeah.